kind of right there, isn't he? Also, it's the trial that's rocked the United States.
She's Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend and longtime associate. And today in court for the first day of her sex trafficking trial.
We'll have a report. That's CNBC. With the news that we'll have a report later in this hour. And also,
the youngest boy to ever commit murder with a firearm in the UK has received a life sentence. With the latest from Birmingham for LBC, I'm Josh Giltrap.
7:16 now, LBC News headlines, Thomas Watts.
Face coverings are now compulsory again in shops and on public transport in England as part of new measures to tackle the Omicron variant of coronavirus. The head of MI6 says intelligence agencies will have to open up to cooperation with the technology sector to counter rising threats. Barbados is the world's newest republic, 55 years after gaining independence from the UK. LBC weather cloudy with patchy rain for most places, feeling much milder, a high of 12 Celsius.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. There are delays on the M25 anti-clockwise where traffic is being held between junction 26 for Waltham Abbey and 25 at Enfield. That's to recover an accident. In Finsbury Park, the bus lane is closed on Seven Sisters Road as a water main has burst near to Finsbury Park Station. And in St James's Park, the traffic lights are not working at the Mall, that's at Marlborough Road. The Woolwich Ferry is suspended for emergency repairs. And on the tubes, there's no service on the Piccadilly line between Rayners Lane and Uxbridge because of the poor rail conditions.
This is LBC.
At O2, we know 1 month you could be running your business on your own. But the next month, you need help. That's okay, because our business contracts can flex as your needs change. And with us, you can get great deals for your business on the latest phones, tablets and SIMs. Choose the flexible network. Search O2 Business.
Eligibility and terms apply. See o2.co.uk/terms.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
We got it at Selco. Selco is where the trade goes.
At Selco Builders Warehouse, we've got real deals on a wide range of trade quality building products. In November, we've got rigid LVT winter driftwood flooring for only £12.49 per square metre ex VAT, while stocks last. Now that's a real deal. Find even more real deals at Selco Builders Warehouse and online at selcobw.com.
We got it at Selco. Selco is where the trade goes.
Charge the 20%.
Many people struggle with loose and missing teeth, and their dentist has told them nothing can be done. Let the TDC team restore your teeth, your smile, and your confidence with our award-winning Smile in a Day dental implant treatment. Book your consultation today. Visit smileinaday.co.uk.
We're ticking all the boxes. Looking for set shifts and no evening work? Tick. Don't want to drive long distances? Tick. Want a great work-life balance? Tick. If you have an LGV Category C license, join our refuse and recycling team doing meaningful work at the heart of your community. Search Circle LGV drivers to find out more. Make a difference every day.
I decided to have a little go on the stock market. So I bought a stripy jacket, 5 TV screens and 3 phones to shout buy and sell into. Turns out I didn't need any of them. Introducing the Free Trade app. The simple, commission-free way to invest, already trusted by over 900,000 users. Open an account at freetrade.io/radio with as little as £1 and get a free share worth up to £200. Get started investing with Free Trade.
When you invest, your capital is at risk and the value of your investments can go down as well as up. Terms and eligibility criteria apply. Other charges may apply.
Anybody want a stripy jacket? Those longer nights are setting in. Hey, Simply Safe family.
Sounds like a job for a super smart security system.
Why don't you tell them about the Simply Safe Black Friday sale?
Yes, we were building up to that.
It's our biggest sale of the year, with huge savings on our award-winning home alarm kits.
Oh, that was my line.
There are loads of great offers all through November.
So, get to simplysafe.co.uk and let our family look out for yours.
For less.
Yeah, for less. Sale ends 30th of November. T's and C's apply.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Time to boost the rollout of boosters. Front pages of the newspapers. Rush Jab is the front page of the Daily Mirror. The Daily Express. Let's go for it. Booster rollout to save Christmas. The Times, scramble to get jabs in arms. The Eye, boosters for every adult in UK to fight Omicron. The Met, I've told you it's virtually all of the Metro, booster drive to beat Omi. They just called it Omi there. And The Guardian, race to return to 500,000 UK jabs a day as Omicron concern grows. That's a snappy one, isn't it? The Financial Times, booster jabs drive widen to all adults. The front pages I've not mentioned then. The Daily Mail goes with the trial that, well, it's rocked the United States, probably rocked much of the world. Maxwell trial day one, Ghislaine predator, those are in quote, that word is in quotes, who served up young girls to be abused. I say again, that is what a court heard. American Affairs for the front page of the day. We'll have a report, by the way, on that in just a moment from one of the Daily Mail journalists who's out there covering Stephen Wright. The Daily Telegraph, American story, a different sort of story. Joe Biden saying there's no cause for panic. The way his presidency is going, that probably means you want to stay in bed all day and not get up, I would suggest. And lastly, The Sun, Sheridan Smith, of course, the stage and screen star, lucky to be alive after her Range Rover hit a tree at high speed. It swerved off a narrow country road in £100,000 car during Storm Arwen. This happened out in Essex. It could have been fatal, says a neighbour who witnessed the aftermath, and there are pictures of bits of the Range Rover strewn across the carriageway, so we must wish Sheridan Smith a speedy recovery. Right, more on the Maxwell trial in a minute. David in Kent's been hanging on him for some time. No, I know, I do. Well, I am, my friend. I'll go and track you down. Well, Kendall, they'll have a long way. I'll better be quick. Do you think there's an overreaction here? Do you think they're getting it about right, the experts? What would you say, sir?
I managed to I was talking to a South African journalist yesterday about music, and obviously then we started talking about the inevitable, and they are a lot less concerned than we are, because there have been, as far as they're aware, there have been no hospitalizations.
Of watching, please subscribe.
A very heavy cold.
So I'll show you
some of
the wonderful roads we have in our country.
I don't know. I mean, I'm triple vaxxed, obviously, and I will put a mask on when I have to. But
does it give you comfort? Lastly, if you, like me, probably accept the United Kingdom could have done a lot more, a lot quicker in the first few months of the pandemic, do you gain comfort in the fact we're moving so quickly now and can sort of phase back, wind it down a little, rather than starting slow, ramping up and being too late?
I think that's probably true, but I always think with government they either do go too fast or go too slowly. And I learned at school about the four leg syndrome.
Go on, finish with
where a dog has four legs, therefore my cat is a dog. We've got to be seen to be doing something.
Well, that might be it, but we're not alone. The whole of Europe is responding like that. Parts of Northern Africa, I read that Morocco now is closed to all incoming traffic. So we are not acting alone here at all. David, thank you. Look after yourself. 7:24. A dog is like a cat. It's way too early for me in the morning. I might be able to handle that about 5 in the afternoon, but no way at this time in the morning. Let's go elsewhere, though, and to New York, where the daughter of the disgraced press baron Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, quotes, preyed on vulnerable young girls, manipulated them, and served them up to be sexually abused, close quotes, by Jeffrey Epstein. Day one of this much-awaited trial in New York, making headlines and writing them for one newspaper. Stephen Wright, associate editor at the Daily Mail, who is part of the Mail team covering this. What did you learn yesterday from day one, Stephen? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick from Manhattan. Well, it's been billed previously as a trial of the decade, a phrase liberally used, you might agree, on occasions in court cases, but I think in this case, a historic, unprecedented trial in New York of Ghislaine Maxwell, who's accused by prosecution authorities here, as you say, of being a dangerous predator, serving up girls for sexual abuse for her former boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. The court was packed. I've never seen anything like it, queuing up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get into court, and it was quite cold. I'm not looking for this interview for that, mind you, but at 4:45, I was there yesterday. I've never seen a press packed like it. And
how did she appear, Stephen? How did Ghislaine Maxwell appear?
Well, it was previously, over previous weeks, we've heard stories of her being, treated really badly in prison. She's at the Metropolitan Detention Centre across Brooklyn. Pictures of her bruised face and stuff. from what I could see, I wasn't in court myself because I couldn't get in, even though I was there at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was overflow courts. We had screens to watch what was going on in a live feed, obviously. But my colleagues were actually in court, and she looked very well in the circumstances. Whatever people think about Ghislaine Maxwell, she has spent 17 months on remand in a very grim prison indeed. I was down there on Saturday, actually, and it's quite extraordinary to think she's in there. I don't, she's got a presumption of innocence, obviously, in this case, and it's up to the jury to decide.
Talk us through the timeline, Stephen. Roughly, how is it? Obviously, we're hearing opening statements now. How long is this likely? When do we hear the defence, and how long?
Well, the defence, actually, I'd like to come to that. The defence, unlike in the UK, it's very rare in the UK from day one to have the prosecution and opening statement and the defence opening statement. We had that yesterday afternoon, so both actually. And the case, according to the defence, is that the accusers of Ghislaine Maxwell, that their stories do not reach the beyond reasonable doubt threshold, and quite extraordinary, her defence attorney went on the attack, attacking civil litigation lawyers who have, they said, been money grabbers and effectively polluted the brains of the accusers, and these stories are made up. So the battle lines have been drawn very clearly here, and I expect it to be a very bitterly fought trial over the next 6 weeks or so.
Stephen, thank you for that. Stephen Wright is part of the Daily Mail team covering that. You can read all about it in the paper. I'm just thinking, it's 27 minutes past 2 in the morning. Stephen, try and grab 2 hours sleep, because then you've got to race down to, presumably it's federal court day. It's downtown Manhattan was where the courts are, so you've got to get downtown to there. Stephen Wright reporting, thank you for that. From a court in New York, well, UK time, of course, now 7:28. From a court in the US to a court in the UK, 4 teenagers jailed for life, one of them aged 14. Lifetime for 14-year-old. Thought to be Britain's youngest defendant convicted of gun murder or youngest gun killer. Details, Josh Giltrap, LBC's reporter in Birmingham, outside Birmingham Crown Court. Josh.
Well, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 21st of January this year, 15-year-old schoolboy Keon Lincoln was attacked by a group of teenagers. Among them, as you just mentioned, a 14-year-old armed with a pistol. Yesterday, the 4 boys were each given a life sentence for murder. The attack happened in broad daylight, so close to Keon's home that his mother says she was able to hear the gunshots. In a victim's statement read out in court on her behalf, she says the sounds of those shots will haunt her for the rest of her life, knowing one of them took the life of her boy. She called the group heartless, evil monsters, and says she only hopes a day will come when the senseless murdering of children will end. The 4 boys in the dock didn't react, as they were all given life sentences for the murder of 15-year-old Keon Lincoln. 14-year-old Youssef Mustafa, who took a revolver to the scene with him and fired the fatal shot which killed Keon, has been sentenced to life with a minimum of 16 years. Michael Ugachukwu and Tajim Breckenridge were both 17 at the time. They're 18 now. They've been given life with a minimum of 19 years. They both took knives to the scene and stabbed the boy. The sentence of life with a minimum of 17 years was also given to a 16-year-old boy who can't be identified for legal reasons. He's appealing his conviction. He also took a knife and stabbed Lincoln with it that day. There was also a 5th member of the group in court yesterday, a 19-year-old Kieran Donaldson. He's been given 12 years in prison for manslaughter. He provided the knife, at least one of the knives to the group, and arranged taxis for 2 members of the group. Summing up, the judge said that although Youssef had fired the gun and the fatal shot, everyone who was there that day was complicit in its use. There was a significant degree of planning. The group met up beforehand across town before setting off to Handsworth, where Lincoln lived, to find their victim. They even took a complicated route to avoid being tracked by CCTV. The judge remarked that if it weren't for the fact that the driver had crashed the car, these boys may never have been tracked down and caught. He also emphasised that if the defendants had been tried as grown men, the minimum terms for their life sentences would have been at least double what they're going to serve now.
Josh Giltrap reporting. We're coming back to this case. Josh, thank you. We're coming back to this case later in the show. Is this the way to combat youth violence? I remind you that this gang, I won't give the details, I will later in the show, but I won't now because I haven't given you a warning as regards little ones and little ears. But there were many attacks with a knife and a machete, and he was also shot. Is the way to tackle this level of crime a life term for a 14-year-old? 16 years minimum, so the earliest you'll ever taste freedom is age 30. Is that the way to tackle it? We'll look at that in more detail. We'll look back to this case. It's fascinating. I'll share it all with you a little bit later with a relevant warning about the brutality of the attack. Okay, coming up in business news is CNN breaking the news that Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, stepping down.
This is CNN breaking news.
We're following breaking news this hour. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has announced he's stepping down. The markets are already responding to the news.
Plus a Labour reshuffle, but does anybody care? Particularly as the deputy leader didn't even seem to know it was going on.
Keir Starmer's reshuffled his top team, but it hasn't exactly gone to plan. On LBC's Theo Usherwood with the story.
7:31, you're listening to Breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari on LBC. Let's get the news. Thomas Watts.
New government measures to combat the new Omicron variant of coronavirus have now come into force. All travellers returning to the UK must take a PCR test within 2 days of arriving and self-isolate until they receive a negative result. The head of MI6 has warned intelligence agencies will have to open up to cooperation with the tech sector to counter rising threats. Richard Moore will use a speech later to acknowledge a sea change in his organisation. France is due to put forward proposals for tackling the migrant crisis in the English Channel. Prime Minister Jean Castex is expected to write to Boris Johnson with proposals for what he calls a balanced agreement between the UK and EU. LBC weather: cloudy with patchy rain for most places, a few brighter spells, especially in the south and east, a high of 12 Celsius.
LBC. Those longer nights are setting in. Hey, Simply Safe family.
Sounds like a job for a super smart security system. Why didn't you tell them about the Simply Safe Black Friday sale? Yes, we were building up to that. It's our biggest sale of the year, with huge savings on our award-winning home alarm kits. That was my line. There are loads of great offers all through November.
So, head to simplysafe.co.uk and let our family look out for yours.
For less.
Yeah, for less. Sale ends 30th of November. T's and C's apply.
So you now earn me not just 1, but 1.5 membership rewards points on every £1 when we spend 20k. It's fair to say you've got a bright future.
Thanks, boss. I'm an Amex Business Gold Card, so I'm just doing my job.
Not anymore. Now you're a senior executive Amex Business Gold Card. You've earned it.
I won't let you down.
The American Express Business Gold Card. The card that works harder for your business. Search Amex Business Gold.
Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval. No annual fee in first year. £175 thereafter. Basic card also available with no annual fee or benefits.
Did you know there's a simple, commission-free way of investing in the stock market called free trade? It's something they don't want you to know about. They being the traditional investment firms. Free trade puts you in control of your portfolio. You buy and sell the shares you choose, commission-free. No wonder they don't want you to know about it. Open an account at freetrade.io/radio with as little as £1 and get a free share worth up to £200. Get started investing with free trade.
When you invest, your capital is at risk and the value of your investments can go down as well as up. Terms and eligibility criteria apply. Other charges may apply.
It's Christmas, nothing's stopping us. Which is why you can tuck into 3 for 2 on any of our cheap party food with your Tesco Club Card. That's a sweet deal. On savoury nipples. Tesco, every little helps. Cheapest item free, available in majority of larger stores. Club Card are required end 2nd of January.
The UK is full of amazing specialist businesses. But where do they go when they need a loan? Easy. Another specialist. Funding Circle. We've helped over 100,000 businesses just like yours. If your business has been affected by COVID and you need finance, we work with the British Business Bank to offer the government's recovery loan scheme in your area. If you've already got a bounce-back loan, this won't affect how much you can borrow. Apply today at fundingcircle.com.
Switch to BT Superfast Fibre this Black Friday and pay absolutely nothing for the first 3 months, then £27.99 per month for month 4. Plus, get your first 3 months of BT TV Entertainment half price, which includes Sky channels with a Now Entertainment membership and a Netflix subscription, all for only £8 a month. Be quick, these offers end on the 2nd of December. Join BT today. 24-month contracts, 95% UK coverage. CPI plus 3.9% increase each March. Now membership RRP £9.99 per month. Netflix basic plan RRP £5.99 per month. Terms apply.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
7:35, back to our conversation about masks, those restrictions in just a moment. But big news, breaking news with CNN yesterday.
This is CNN breaking news.
We're following breaking news this hour. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has announced he's stepping down. The markets are already responding to the news.
But why? With the story behind the story from Equity Exchange, David Buick. What's behind this, David? Good morning.
Top of the morning, Nick. Well, I don't know. I think his threshold with boredom is probably quite low. He set this company up in 2006, made an absolute mint, made an even greater mint with a company called Square, which is a payments company, which is worth about $100 billion. And this makes Jack Dorsey's fortune $12 billion, which is pretty grown up by any standards. Anyway, when he resigned, whoop, up went the share price that was suspended. It came back from being 10% up to only being 3.5% up. It's almost like a sort of relief thing. And everybody's looking around. So he's only 45 years of age. What else is he going to do? And the answer is he loves Bitcoin. Good luck, because that's almost as volatile as I think probably Twitter is. So that's where he's going to put his energies, and there we are.
Let's look at other matters. Should we, well, I was going to say up and away, but not, of course, for Virgin. They're getting problems with, again, this is all down to this Omicron, isn't it?
Well, it's got worse as well this morning, Nick, as well, because we see that in the FT, Stefan Bolsell, the chief executive of Moderna, is saying he's very much doubts the efficacy and the strength and the power of the vaccine. So you can imagine the markets were shaken. The Dow's going to open up probably about 375 points down. We're probably going to be down 70 points this morning. But this really focuses the problems that Virgin Atlantic's got. Now, as you recall, Sir Richard Branson had to sell some of his stake in Virgin Galactic, and also they had to go back to their bankers, and they managed the facilities to totaling up to about $1.5 billion. This may not be enough, and they're looking to raise another $400 million. Well, with the possibility of some travel restrictions coming in again, bankers are obviously going to cock their eyebrows, and it's going to be very difficult for him. And I think people are very concerned about the overall future of the company unless something really dramatic happens.
Quick word on EasyJet as we're in that sector.
Well, Johan Lundgren, the chief executive, was very qualified in his comments this morning, saying that the loss, which we spoke about yesterday, was 1.14 billion against 835 million loss in 2020. They think this year that the loads will be about 80% of what the 2019 levels were. Revenues this year were down 52% at 1.46 billion. The situation is that they're going to add hopefully another 25 aircraft to their fleet this year, and maybe 56 more going forward if the conditions improve. But he was extremely qualified in not being prepared to talk about any other kinds of figures.
Grateful. Talk again tomorrow morning. David Buick.
LBC Business Update.
With Direct Line Business Insurance. Flexibility to make unlimited policy changes with no admin fees.
Let's come to a story we covered just before the news headlines. Now, we're doing this in more depth later in the show. These are the 4 teenagers, one of whom was 14, believed to be the nation's youngest ever gun killer, 14-year-old Mustafa. Indeed, we can only share his name with you because the judge lifted what would normally be a restriction. He gets a life term, aged 14, minimum 16 years. Is this the way to tackle the growth of street violence? I'll share with you later in the show the violence that was inflicted on the victim. Samantha in Walthamstow. What do you say, Samantha? Good morning.
I think, hi, good morning, Nick. Yes, I think this is definitely the way to go. These young boys are out there doing these crimes, premeditated, pre-planned. They know exactly what they're doing. They're taking another life. And I think that these sentences that they're getting is what they should get. They need to learn that you can't just go out there with a weapon, kill someone, and think you're going to get away with it. This government needs to be much harder on these youths, doesn't matter the age. He's 14. They should show up him. Yes, we've heard his name, but he's committed a crime. He's taken another life. The sentence isn't enough. They need to learn that, if you get caught doing these crimes, this is what's going to happen. The government needs to put a stark warning to these youths that are going out, doing these things. They're taking these lives. Parents are suffering, families are suffering, and it's not right.
Of course it's not right, but here's the thing. I was opening the Daily Telegraph to speak because they've done an extraordinary amount of coverage on this. And they speak to one person, Tanaya Sam, who works with gang members in Birmingham, who says, nowadays these kids say, I'll do my 20 years in prison and still come out and have a life. Which is, if that is the case, that's presumably perhaps what this child killer, he's not killed a child, this child who was a killer, he's done.
Okay, so he'll do his 16 years.
Yeah.
He'll come out when he's, 30?
Yeah.
Hopefully he may have been reformed, but he's been inside. If he comes out again and he's going to live that same lifestyle, then so be it. He gets caught again and goes down for life. that's a lesson they'll have to learn. You know, that's a mindset that they're going to have when they're serving these long sentences in prison, to come out, be tougher, and go back to that same lifestyle, and that's down to them.
Samantha, thank you for getting us started. This is going to be a conversation later in the show when I will share with you, as I say, how that young man met his fate at the hands of Mustafa, as well as the rest of the gang, and the background to the gangs that are operated in Birmingham. Sadly, I'm sure there are gangs operating like that in major cities up and down the country, but it is quite an incredible story. Is that the way to solve that problem, Samantha? Thanks for getting us started. Right, let's put that paper to one side as we get into something that wasn't quite breaking this time yesterday, but the rumbling started towards the end of my shift, which was that there were moves afoot to shake up the front bench of the Labour Party by, of course, the party leader, Sir Keir Starmer. I didn't know about it, and that's quite right. Why should I? Sadly, it appeared the deputy leader of the party was roughly on the same level as me. Here to report LBC's political editor, Theo Usher with Theo.
Now, the last time Keir Starmer reshuffled his top team, the aim was to make Angela Rayner, his deputy, carry the can for losing the Hartlepool by-election. And so he set about trying to sack her after that disastrous result for the Labour Party. It didn't go to plan, and 24 hours later, he ended up giving her no fewer than 3 new jobs. Now, you might think that after that debacle, the Labour leader would want to avoid another repeat performance. Not so. The reshuffle was timed as Miss Rayner was giving an important speech to an important think tank on the important issue of rooting out sleaze in politics. Reshuffle? She'd heard nothing about it.
You know, I don't know the details of the reshuffle or the timing of it. I've been here concentrating on my own now, but 6 months ago I said again we need some consistency in how we're approaching things as opposition, and I want us to see us as a government in waiting. I want us to do that job, because if we're not doing that job, then we're letting down the people of this country at a time when they need us the most. So I'm focused on making sure that every part of our Labour movement is focused on getting us into power.
And aside there from Angela Rayner, she's focused on getting Labour into power, not on the machinations of the top team of the Labour Party. The big winners, Yvette Cooper promoted to Shadow Home Secretary to replace the misfiring Nick Thomas-Symonds, who's simply not made enough of the running on the migrant crisis in the Channel. LBC's very own David Lammy, he takes up the Shadow Foreign brief. Lisa Nandy, she's on your programme in the next hour. She's been demoted to the Levelling Up brief, taking on Michael Gove. Although when she appears on your programme, I think she'll be insisting that it's not a demotion, but it's an important role within Keir Starmer's top team. Another big loser, of course, is Ed Miliband, who's been stripped of his business and energy brief because of he's been sounding off about renationalising the energy industry. So he's been demoted as well, as has Jonathan Ashworth. He's lost the health brief because, in actual fact, he's recovering at home from COVID. Wes Streeting takes over that one, Nick.
Theo Usherwood reporting. Thanks to other stories. You remember the Insulate Britain movement and the protesters who were sent to jail a couple of weeks ago, one of whom, Emma Smart, has been now 13 days on hunger strike, and it's been reported she's been given hospital treatment. Let's go now to her husband, Andy Smith, who joins me. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming on. What do you understand to be the level of provision of care or fluids that your wife is receiving? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. She's currently still in the healthcare wing of the prison, actually, and she was moved there just to maintain her well-being and ease of access to kind of medical services. The prison currently has a lot of staff off sick with COVID, so they're having to manage their inmates in a slightly different way. So my wife is actually on 14 days today, so 2 weeks today, and she has just been drinking water for those just for the 2-week period.
Why? Why is she doing this, Mr. Smith?
Because she would like our government to make a meaningful statement to insulate Britain's homes, and she's kind of in that position because she's a scientist. This hasn't been reported very widely at all. My wife is actually an ecologist. She spent her whole adult life trying to protect the environment. She's quite well regarded in that field. She's been a researcher for BBC documentaries out in the Middle East. She actually has a fish named after her. She discovered a new species of fish, which is probably in the 15 years since she discovered it now gone extinct because of the climate crisis. And my wife kind of realised that the government, no matter how much scientific information you give them, aren't actually acting on any of the science. So she's kind of put her science career behind her now and has moved into activism, because that is the only way that our government is going to start taking meaningful statement until the government make a meaningful statement. That's highly unlikely, though, really, isn't it? We've got a Prime Minister who can't even put together a coherent sentence about Peppa Pig, so it's highly unlikely he's going to put a meaningful statement together about saving the lives of pensioners.
So will she just carry on?
I have absolutely no idea at this stage. She's quite determined. Her love and kind of her desire to protect nature is fully ingrained in who she is. It's what she stands for. She has a strong moral conviction to be a voice for the 9 million species that don't have a voice, and she's quite intent on speaking out for those.
Do you support her?
Oh, of course, obviously, yeah. I think in this instance, I fully support and respect her decision. This isn't the first time we've had to make tough decisions. It's just another tough decision in a long line, right? So we chose not to have kids a long time ago because we knew where the planet was heading, and not having children was the biggest impact we could make on our carbon footprint, as well as not wanting to bring them up in a world, a 2-degree world, a 3-degree world, which wouldn't be a particularly nice environment for them. When she sat down in the road for the first time, she made a tough decision to be arrested. This people don't make these decisions lightly, Nick.
Are you able to talk with her?
I have had several conversations with her.
How would you describe her mood?
She's general mental well-being has been really quite good and positive, which is something that's great with a hunger strike. A hunger strike is about 80% mental and 20% physical. So her general mental well-being at the moment is good. Obviously, as the longer she goes, the weaker she gets, and that may start affecting her mood. But she's a determined woman.
And I understand, is it right, you're joining another fast today? Briefly, what's that about, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so we'll be down on Whitehall outside Downing Street today for 24 hours. We'll be fasting for 24 hours from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in solidarity, and just to kind of raise awareness and just to remind Boris that Insulate Britain haven't gone away. I'm not a member of Insulate Britain, but I do kind of support their cause. We can't live in this country with elderly people dying in their homes each winter. That's not a good place to be.
Quite clean. Everything is cleared.
I'm grateful for your time. Andy Smith, thank you. Your husband.
Barricades to divide.
Hunger strike, albeit that she is being given fluids
over here.
Hospital wing of a prison.
Safety is very important. Safety is very important. If Ghanaians are watching me, sometimes you make the road, it looks nice.
Remove the Queen as its head of state.
But where is the safety?
A republic. LBC weather cloudy with patchy rain for most places, feeling much milder. A high.
What are the road markings?
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh, is queuing for an hour and a half on the M25 anti-clockwise from junction 20 to Brook Street
all these
25 to Enfield as the lane is closed to recover an accident. On the A13 westbound, the exit road is partly blocked.
It's endure. It's durable.
This lane is closed on 7 Sisters Road as the water main has burst near to Finsbury Park Station. The Woolwich Ferry is suspended for emergency repairs, and on the tubes, no service on the Piccadilly line between Rayners Lane and Uxbridge.
This is LBC.
Are you sure you don't want to retire next year instead?
Pedestrian
top accountant is retiring just as new business is rolling in, and problems are starting to add up.
We are thinking about where cars will pass, but we don't think about where human beings will pass.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you candidates whose CVs on Indeed meet your job description.
Pedestrians as well as
visit Indeed.com/try today.
We are all road users. Even think about where animals pass.
What the hello there, hummingbird. I was just doing a bit of online shopping.
Sometimes you see roads in Ghana and they say, oh, very nice roads.
You're right.
They just do the road, nothing else.
Indeed. What to spend my cash back on?
How the roads has been barricaded, you can't cross over to the next
UK
without any barricade.
We share that cash with you. The yellow
shopping online? Top cashback.
Safety.
Safety. A Simply Safe family.
It sounds like a job for
Can
a
Ghana
super smart
think about
security
safety
system. What did you tell them about the Simply Safe Black
of human life?
Yes, we were building up to that. It's our biggest sale of the year, with huge savings on our award-winning home alarm kits. Oh, that was my line. There are loads of great offers all through November.
So head to simplysafe.co.uk and let our family look out for yours.
For less.
Yeah, for less. Sale ends 30th of November. T's and C's apply.
If a bank or financial advisor persuaded you to make an investment which lost money, Keller Lankner can help. Even if the company has gone bust or disappeared, the experts at Keller Lankner may still be able to get that money back. No win, no fee. At Keller Lankner, we're a team of specialist lawyers who only deal in cases just like this. So don't give up. Text RECOVER to 66777. Text RECOVER to 66777 now.
Investment. What does it mean to you? Security? Prosperity? Retirement? Yes, it could be all of this. But investment
Just
can also be
the
that
cash
cure you help to finance. This factory you help to create.
If the roads are
That
not
community you help to protect. This school you help to build. That crop you help to irrigate. This air
because the roads are
you help to make breathable. Done right, investment can be a powerful thing, and you can experience that at Aberdeen.com. Aberdeen, the power of investment. Capital at risk, issued by a member of the Aberdeen Group.
COVID-19 particles gather in the air like smoke.
And on top of that,
in enclosed spaces, these particles can build up over time. So it's harder to avoid breathing it in.
If there is a queue,
so if you have any COVID-19 symptoms, however mild, take a PCR test immediately.
When it is your turn,
and always stay home if the test is positive, so you don't breathe COVID-19
you don't overtake
others.
somebody.
Stop
Take
COVID-19 hanging around. It's Lidl's big toy event, so get your toy boxes at the ready. Save on big brands like Lego, Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol. Get a Paw Patrol vehicle for only $8.99. All this and more in Lidl stores from Sunday the 5th of December. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
7 minutes before 8 is the time. We'll come back to taking your calls about these new requirements, restrictions and indeed rules that have come in. But let's get some more pointers from Conservative MP and Care and Mental Health Minister Gillian Keegan, who joins me now. Very buoyant and boosterish about getting boosters. Many of the headlines this morning reflect that. Have we got enough, and how are they to be prioritised? Good morning, Minister.
Good morning. Yes, we've got enough. The NHS are working on operationalising the plan right now with the Department for Health. I'm pretty sure they'll be prioritised as they were previously in age cohorts. So obviously we've done the most vulnerable people and the oldest in the population. 17 million boosters have been jabbed and administered. And there are more people who are still eligible. So I'm getting mine this week actually. But you know they will probably come at use the same process we've used, which is age cohorts.
Now, the rules for face masks and travel are for 3 weeks, but I understand the self-isolation is in place. If that is the case, is that a danger? What are we doing to avoid that, Minister?
Well, obviously, what we're doing is waiting on the scientists. So we need to just buy some time so that they can tell us, exactly how effective our current vaccines are against the variant, and we just need that more input from them. Until we get that, obviously, we want people to self-isolate. I mean, we ask people to self-isolate anyway. If they get a positive test, they have to self-isolate. Obviously now, if you've been in contact with somebody with Omicron, we're asking you to self-isolate just so we can slow the spread, to give the scientists enough time to be able to give us more input and more information.
You won't be surprised. Every minister who does the round is asked the same question. How safe is Christmas, Minister?
Well, I mean, we're saying, obviously the best thing we can do, and what I've said before is, we want everybody to come forward and get their jab. For Christmas, before Christmas, if you haven't had your first jab, come forward, please. If you haven't had your second, come forward. Your booster, when you call that, come forward. The best thing we can do for everything really to protect protect our society and to, you know, make sure that we can go about our daily businesses as much as we possibly can, is for everybody to get their jab. It is the best form of defence. So, yeah, all we want for Christmas is everyone to get their jab.
And what about attending an activity play? Would you recommend that?
Well, yes, I think we've said go about your plans. I mean, obviously, you know, wear a mask, be cautious. You know, all the things that people usually put in place. To be honest, I think most people.
I'm going to the tunnel now.
Sensible, wrong, but we're not saying to people cancel your plans.
We're in the tunnel.
It is something that, you know, people take a personal decision, but, you know, I often put my mask on until I sit down there. I take my mask off, same with going into other venues. But the thing about restaurants and pubs is people are eating and drinking, you know, pretty much all the time. You know, you might have the first bit of wait while your food comes, but you're eating and drinking all the time, so your mask's on and off. So that's why we've made the distinction between shops, where you're going into crowded places with lots of people, particularly this time of year, and we've basically made that distinction. But we will be reviewed every 3 weeks.
And for people who, goodness knows, they've had a and they might have been hoping to get away perhaps for a bit of skiing or whatever it might be this winter, again, what is the recommendation? Can they still go to Europe skiing? Would you recommend it? Would you rather they stayed at home? What's the situation?
Well, again, we've put a number of countries on the red list, not ski resorts actually, but there's a number of countries on the red list, and they'll be reviewed as well every 3 weeks, which they are all the time. But, you know, what we've basically said is, you know, we don't know much about the new variant. We're trying to be proportionate, we're trying to be balanced. We're waiting for more input from the scientists. You know, we're not recommending people to change their plans, but people have always had to be cautious with travel. You know, we've always said, you know, we do have this system where we may need to move quickly. But I think people, you know, can still go about booking their plans. But, you know, we do, you know, obviously anyone who's in South Africa right now has had to make a change to their plans.
But a skiing trip, say, to France or Austria, that's still on in your view?
We've said people to continue with their plans. You know, they'll know, and many people will be, and they'll know more, we'll know more in the next couple of weeks. And, you know, we want to be proportionate. We don't want to tell people to stop doing things that they were intending to do. But it's clearly it's difficult because we don't have all the information we would like from the scientists. So we're buying time. That's why we put these countries on the red list. Try and slow those spread so that the scientists can tell us, you know, how effective the vaccines are. And then obviously we'll have a lot more information.
I'll ask a couple of questions, noting that you are Care and Mental Health Minister. What are the provisions in residential and care homes? What are required there for staff, indeed for visitors?
Well, they've all had the offer of the boosters, so many people now have very high booster uptake amongst the residents, and the staff are being done as well. And of course, we ask people to wear masks as well, staff visitors, to take precautions. You know, obviously we've got the most vulnerable people in our society in care homes, so we've always been quite cautious. And you know, there is a lot of infection control procedures that are in place.
There was considerable fear we would lose a high percentage of care staff. Was that when it became necessary mandatory for them to have their jabs? Did that turn out to be the case, Minister?
No, I mean, I haven't had the final figures yet because there's a lag in the data. But what we did see is a lot more people came forward for the vaccine, and most of the care sector, you know, obviously there were some people who sadly did leave, but on the whole, it wasn't a huge amount of people. I don't have the final numbers, but most of the care settings said it was manageable.
Okay, lastly, you've been busy this morning, you might not have been aware, but Rob Ingworth, who's a name in cricket, he played before you were probably even born. He was the England captain, he won the Ashes. Sadly, he's been diagnosed with throat cancer, and he supports assisted dying as he fears he might have a rather grim battle ahead. Do you?
I've
gone back and forth on this actually because
Thank you so much for
I now have the responsibility for that, but it is a conscience issue. It's not something that the government sort of sets a path on, as it were. But I have a lot of constituents in the same situation as Ray, or just very elderly who do support assisted dying. I've previously been very cautious about it as assisted dying. I'm a Catholic, and you always think where there's